After so many days, I got a chance to continue on this playlist. So today we will be talking about adding a repository layer in any Spring Boot enterprise grade application. Okay. So let's start with the dependency. So first we need to add this Spring Boot starter data JPA, which is a generic dependency. Like no matter if you are using Oracle, MySQL, or whatever, you will be adding this dependency. And the second dependency that I'm using is Postgres. So basically for this tutorial purpose, I will be using Postgres database running in a local Docker container. So that's why I added this runtime dependency. Okay. So let's start with the configuration. So you might have already noticed in my thumbnail that I have written like read or write repository. So basically you can divide all your application in three categories. One is read heavy, second is write heavy, and third is like almost equivalent. So most of the application will come under first and second category, but even if it is a third kind of category, it is always better to point read and write operation to a different DB instances. Why is that? Because you can put different infra or a different configuration in write instances or read instances. So first of all, let's create a package name repo. Okay, and let's do some config. So config folder. So first of all, like we need to provide a data source. So let's create data source config class. As it is a configuration class, so let's annotate it with configuration. And now we need to provide two data sources, one for read and one for write. So let's do it public data source, write data source, and we will be using Hikari. So Hikari data source, and this required a Hikari config. So Hikari config. So this configuration basically like we need to provide a JDBC URL, username, password, or the driver class, or any other parameter like pool size, anything that you want, you can provide here. So first of all, JDBC URL. Let's do one thing. Let's create some variables, JDBC URL, and then username, password, and the driver class name. Okay, and let's create a constructor because it is complaining. Okay, so yeah, this will be my, this is JDBC, wait, JDBC URL. Okay, set username, set password, and set driver class name, driver class. Okay, and then this configuration we need to provide in a data source. Okay, so this is going to be a bean. So this is for write data source. We need to create another bean for read. So read data source. Okay. Now you might be wondering, like I'm using same JDBC URL, username, password for both read and write data source. Why is that? So basically I'm just running a local database instance. So in real life scenario, this JDBC URL, username, password, this three, at least these three parameter will be different for read and write. So accordingly, you will be replacing this with your original read or write data sources. Okay. So basically this I will be getting from the property. So maybe we will do it later once we will be running it. Okay. Next thing is we need to, as like we are doing things manually, so we need to provide a transaction manager and the EntityManagerFactory. Okay, so let's create those classes for read and write. So first of all, let's create for write data source. Okay, again it is a configuration, so let's annotate with configuration. Then we need to enable JPA repositories. Okay, and one more thing, enable transaction management. Yeah, this one. Okay, now we will be creating a transaction manager and entity manager factory. So we need to provide those variable here. Okay, and the second is transaction manager. Okay, so let's call it as write em factory. Okay, let's just write em and then write txm. Okay, few more thing we need to provide. First of all, the base package. Okay, and then uh, we need to provide some filter. Okay, so basically why we providing this base package here, like when you will have entity and then you will have a JPA repository. Okay, so basically you will be having a separate in JPA repository for write data source and separate for read data source. So you need to provide a base package like where my code or my this JPA can find those interfaces. So that's why we are providing this base package. So for our case, it will be kind of bytepin.tm, then repo, and yeah, and then I will be creating one package write. Then it will resolve those interfaces from there. Okay. Second is include filters. So basically, uh, go to this base package and then filter interfaces based on this. So this will be component scan filter type, filter type annotation, and that annotation will be my repository, the stereotype repository dot class. Okay, so basically go to this base package, whatever classes are there which are annotated with this repository class, those are my JPA repositories. Okay, now what about this write em and write type transaction manager? So we need to create these beans. Okay, so let's create one by one. So first of all, local container entity manager factory bean, this one. Okay, again write em. Okay, this is a bean, so let's annotate. Second thing is we need to create this entity manager factory. So entity manager factory builder, yeah, this one builder. Okay, then return builder. Okay, this is incorrect one. Let me remove this. So this will be from the JPA one. Let me see. Yeah, this one. So builder.data source, uh, the right data source that we have created in the previous class. So basically data source. But again, like we have two kind of data source, one for write and one for read. So we need to provide a qualifier. So qualifier is, oh, we have not created any qualifier. So let's create this write ds and read ds. Okay, so let's copy from here and put here. This data source we need to provide here. Then the packages like where my entity exists. So I will be having entity in com.bytepin.tm.repo, and then I will be creating a folder or a package name entity. There I will get all the entities. This is a write factory. So let's call it as write and then build. That's it. Okay, so let's just indentate properly. Okay, so now we have provided this entity manager factory bean. So we need to give this bean as write em. Okay, next we need to create this transaction manager. So we will be creating a platform transaction manager. Again write txm. This name can be anything. I'm just making it consistent with this name. Okay, again this is going to be a bean. So this bean name and then new JPA transaction, yeah, this one, and the write entity manager. So basically, not this one, this one, yeah, and this factory here. Okay. Um, it looks okay. Now similar to this write data source config, we need to create for read as well. Okay, so let's create it as read data source config. Okay, and most of the things will be same, so means similar. Let me quickly copy paste things. Um, yeah, so let's grab this write from everywhere and convert to read. So let's double confirm, like read time, read repo. Okay, this we will be changing. This read data source, entity will be same, read transaction manager, and yeah, everything looks okay now. Sometime you will see you will be creating a different annotation for your read repository JPA. So let's create that. So I have already created this read repository annotation. So basically target is element type so that I can annotate any interface with this read repository. Then the retention we want it at runtime as well, so that's why it is retention is runtime. And this is how you will inherit any annotation. Okay, so we are annotating it with @repository from the Spring framework. Okay, so my read data source and write data source config are done. Let's create some entity. So let's create a entity name task. Okay, let's copy things from here because like things will be same. Basically this ID, the title, description, and the definition of that. Okay, um, this is data and the entity. Okay, the table name will be let's call it as app tasks. So always remember your Java class will not have as, it will be like single entity task, but your table name will be like tasks. Okay, then let's this will be my ID. Now it is optional to provide this column annotation, but it is always better to put something, right? So even if the name is same, so even if I don't provide this name here, a column annotation here, the column name will be title only, but it is always better to create a annotate it with the column annotation. Okay, so for this will be description, and then this will be let's call it as is done. Okay, so that's what the column name will be is done in the database. Okay, so as we have annotated it with ID, so this will be my primary key. Okay, we are basically we are learning with very simple entity, so you can go ahead and create lots of entity, but the basic principle will remain same. Okay, now we need to add or get some data using JPA repository, so let's create those as well. So package will be like write and read. Okay, so first let's create a task write repo. Okay, which extends JPA repository. Table is task and the primary key is string. Let's annotate it with repository. Similarly, we need to create a read repository, read JPA interface basically. So this will be my task read repo. Okay, this extends again the JPA repository. Table is same and my primary key is also same. This will be my read repository. Why? Because in the read data source config we have provided this filter as, oh we forgot, so let's do it, read repository. Okay, so now we have task read repository and task write repository. So let's add it in the service layer. So here we have this task management service IMPL. Let's grab those private task read repo. Let's call it as read repo, and similarly my write repo. Okay, let's make it final as well, and we need to uh, add constructor for auto varying. Okay, now so let's say read repository read dot find by id and the task id. This will return optional, so either we can provide it as null or better to throw. Okay, so or else throw new app client exception error code task not found. Okay, so you will see like this will return in the form of table like task, but we are returning it as a task DTO. So let's convert this. Okay, so task DTO is equal to new task DTO. Let me complete it quickly. Okay, so finally return this DTO. Okay, there is one more concept of projection. So basically what do you do if your projection, basically the DTO field name is same as your column name, so you can directly put this task DTO at the time of finding data, then your Spring Boot application will directly convert to your DTO. Okay, so maybe in this tutorial or in next tutorial we will be covering those. Okay, this is my getting the task. Similarly, let me complete this create task and update task and delete task quickly. Okay, so my all the methods are done. Let me just verify, or let's say if we get any issue, then we can fix it. Let me recollect if everything is fine. Um, yeah, I remember. I think I forgot to provide these JDBC URL, username, password, and driver class name through properties file. So let's do it quickly. Okay, so values are done. Basically, this password you will be getting from your secret store or Vault. Okay, let's create a table. So you might be asking like why I'm creating this table manually. So although we have this enable DDL property and the JPA, so that automatically can create table in your database based on your Java class, but it is not, I mean, it is never done in your serious application. you will always create your tables manually, either by script or some automation tool like Liquibase. Okay, so most of the time you will be using those automated tool or script. Okay, so let me create this app task table. Yeah, let's create. Okay, this table is created now. Let's uh, start our application. Hopefully it should be up. No, there is some issue. Required a bean of time EntityManagerFactory that could not be found. Basically, we have few problems. First one is the ambiguity issue. So basically, we have multiple data source. So one of them we need to provide it as a primary bean. Otherwise, we will get that error, right? Factory bean not found something. So I have annotated my write data source providers as primary. So basically, like your EntityManagerFactory, TransactionManager, and the write data source, all are your primary. Okay, for read, it will be my secondary. Next issue is in the property. So basically, I forgot this convention. Like whenever you need to grab some value from the property file, you need to do like this. And third thing is this driver name was incorrect. It was earlier Postgres, but it should be driver. So now my application is running. Let's quickly verify if it is okay. So it says something went wrong. Okay, this is incorrect. Let's see what is the issue. Agent does not exist. And oh, okay. So basically we created this table manually, and here we are using column name is done. So either we drop this table, let's drop this table and call it as is done. So make it consistent. Okay, and now it should run, I think. Let's see. Okay, yeah, now it is giving my custom message like task not found. Okay, now let's create some task. Okay, id, no matter you provide here, it will be overridden there. So let's just remove it. Title, let's say title 1. Description, let's say DSC1. And it is not yet done, so let's say false. Okay, hopefully it should create. Yeah, it has created this title, this description, and done is false. And it is the id, it is generated like this. So let's try to get this. Okay, I'm getting the details. We can update this task as well. So let's provide this id here. Okay, here we don't want that id. Title, let's say title underscore new. And let's call description as well new. And again, it is not done yet. So let's execute it. So okay, I think we forgot to put back the id in the service IMPL. Basically here, when we are creating this task GTO, we need to set that id as well. But anyways, it is giving my title new and this, so it should have been updated here as well. Let's call it again. Yeah, title new and description new. So yeah, that's it. I mean, the repository layer is integrated. This this repository integration, like creating, deleting, getting task, is not fully done because we have few things. Like for example, let's see. Like if I need to update only title, what happens? Okay, let's call it as new underscore 1 just for the testing. And it incorrectly made description as null, which is not correct. Let me get this data again, and this making it is null. Basically we haven't provided any description, so it should ignore that. So that thing is missing. So let's cover those in our next session. Thank you.